My name is Abby, and today I'll be talking to you about frescoes. A brief introduction to frescoes. They are paintings on walls made of plaster and pigment. The pigment seeps into the plaster, sealing the color inside. We know all of the items listed on the screen before you because of Vitruvius and Pliny the Elder, who described the process of making frescoes in their books. One thing to note is the replication of frescoes. They were very common to see multiple replicas of the same frescoes in different homes, as seen with Perseus' Ring and Andromeda. Thanks to Vitruvius and Pliny, we know the pigments used in these ancient frescoes. They're all listed here, but some ones to note is the blue pigment. Egyptian blue was the first synthetic pigment. The other pigment, purple, was very uncommon to use in frescoes. It was a lot more common in clothing because of how expensive it was. And then another interesting fact is that they used soot for the color black. Chiara in Naples is a great example of beautiful frescoes. However, we aren't sure who the artist is. We believe that inside the church, Giotto at least painted the nun's choir fresco, but other artists may have contributed it because he was credited with too much work for the timeline that he was in Naples. As for the cloister of the church, we know it was painted in the 17th century, but we don't know who the artist is. This is all unsure because the historical records were destroyed in 1943 due to a World War II air raid on the church. An example of a beautiful fresco is in the Duomo di Napoli. It's a Baroque one and it's a great example of 16th and 17th century art. There are two artists who worked on this because the first artist, referred to as Domenichino, was contracted in 1631, but he's from outside the Neapolitan area. The Neapolitans hated it, and so he ended up getting so many threats that he fled the city, leaving his wife and kids. He ended up coming back because they took his wife and kids hostage, and when he was there, he ended up completing the pendatives, which are the corner areas here, and the lunettes, which are here above the altar. And he completed 5 of the 6 paintings too. However, he died in April of 1642, probably to poisoning. Then they brought in Giovanni Lafranco, who finished the Duomo and did the 6 oil painting scene. A beautiful fresco in northern Italy is the Brunelleschi Dome in Florence. It was the largest planned fresco at the time. Fun fact, when the architect Brunelleschi gave his idea to the people who would choose the design of the Duomo, he created the cheapest and largest architectural design, but refused to explain how he would feasibly complete the dome, stating he was afraid of others stealing his idea. However, they gave him the opportunity to build it anyway, but it was impractical, led to multiple renovations, and the project almost entirely failed. It was so over budget that the Duomo was left entirely blank until Giorgio was commissioned by the Medici family to paint the Duomo in 1572. It's in a Gothic style and features images from Last Judgment and Dante's Divine Comedy. However, Vasari only finished 1/3 of it before he died in 1574, and it was finished by Zuccari, who changed the color and style and method of painting, making it not entirely a fresco. The fresco is located in Sorrento. The building itself was built in the 1300s after the Brawl of 1319, when noble families began fighting over the administration of the city. It was built so that they could have a separate meeting space. The frescoes that we see here today were painted later, in the 1700s, by Carlo Amalfi, who, despite what his name may make you think, is from Sorrento. The building and the frescoes, especially the coat of arms of Sorrento located above the door, is associated with the idea of mutual welfare and respect. my sources, and thank you for listening.